The glow of your phone screen. A beacon in the night. You're scrolling, searching, hoping to find that spark, that connection, that someone special in the digital void. But be careful what you wish for out there in the digital darkness. Because sometimes, when you're looking for love, you find something else entirely. We've all heard the stories, the whispers of dates gone wrong. But these are different. These are the stories that claw at the edges of your mind. The ones that make you question every swipe, every match, every late-night message. These are the stories that will make you put down your phone and slowly back away. These are 5 true dating app horror stories. Stories of encounters that spiraled into terror, of matches made in the darkest corners of the internet. And tonight, we delve into their chilling depths. So, dim the lights, lock your doors, and silence your phones. Because tonight, we face the horrors that lurk on the other side of the screen. Our first story takes us into the world of online dating, where anonymity can be a blessing and a curse. Our subject, let's call her Sarah, was excited to dive into the world of online dating. She was looking for connection, for companionship, and initially, it seemed like she had found it. He was charming, witty in his messages, and his profile seemed absolutely normal. They chatted for days, finding common ground in their love for movies, their shared taste in music, the usual things. But there was this one thing. He seemed to know a little too much about her. Details about her life she'd never shared on her profile. At first, Sarah brushed it off as coincidence. Maybe they had mutual friends, or he'd stumbled across her on other social media. But the coincidences started to pile up. He mentioned her favorite childhood restaurant, a tiny place she hadn't thought about in years. A place she'd only ever mentioned to her family and closest friends. A shiver ran down Sarah's spine. How could he possibly know that? It was then that the messages took a darker turn. He began mentioning things about her past, events she'd never shared with anyone online. A childhood accident, a long-forgotten fear. It was as if someone had been watching her, meticulously documenting her life for this very moment. Fear gnawed at the edges of Sarah's mind. This was no harmless coincidence. Something was terribly wrong. She decided to cut off contact, to block him from her dating app and move on. But when she went to block his profile, she saw it. A message, sent just moments before, containing her home address. Her blood ran cold. How did he get that? She'd never given him that information, not through the app, not through any other means. Trembling, Sarah blocked him on the dating app, deleted her profile, and tried to convince herself that it was over. She tried to rationalize, to tell herself that it was just a sick joke, a cruel prank, but the fear lingered, a dark cloud hanging over her every move. Days turned into a sleepless blur of anxiety. Every creak of the floorboard, every shadow in the night sent her heart racing. Then, a notification, a message request from an unknown number. It simply read, "You can't block me forever." He knew she'd blocked him, and he was finding other ways to reach her. The digital wall she had erected, the illusion of safety, had crumbled. He was watching, waiting, and there was nothing she could do to stop it. Sarah was trapped, caught in a nightmare of her own making. Every notification, every ring of her phone felt like a threat. She was a prisoner in her own home, too terrified to even venture outside. The man she thought she knew, the one who seemed so charming, so perfect, had transformed into her worst nightmare. And the worst part? She had no idea who he really was, no way to truly escape his grasp. He lurked in the shadows of the digital world, always watching, always waiting for his next move. Sarah's story is a chilling reminder that in the world of online dating, not everyone is who they seem. And sometimes the people we invite into our lives are the ones we should fear the most. Our next story dives into the deceptive heart of online profiles where things aren't always as they appear. Meet Mark, a young man who thought he'd struck gold in the digital dating pool. He swiped right on a profile that seemed almost too good to be true. A stunningly attractive woman with a smile that could light up a room. Her profile was filled with pictures of exotic vacations and glamorous events. Mark was captivated. They started chatting, and she seemed just as perfect in conversation as she was in her photos. She was witty, intelligent, and shared many of his interests. It felt like fate, like he'd stumbled upon the woman of his dreams. But there was one thing holding her back, she claimed. She was incredibly shy and preferred to take things slow. Mark, smitten as he was, agreed to her pace. However, as their conversations continued, he couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't quite right. He suggested a video call, a chance to see each other face to face and break the ice. But she always had an excuse, a technical difficulty, a last-minute work commitment. Then came the suggestion of a first date. But it wasn't the usual coffee shop or casual dinner date. She wanted to meet at a secluded beach, a hidden spot she claimed was her special place. Mark, while initially hesitant, found himself agreeing. Her charm, her allure, was difficult to resist. But deep down, a seed of doubt had been planted. Something felt off. Driven by a mixture of infatuation and growing unease, Mark decided to do a little digging. He searched for her on social media, hoping to find a digital footprint that matched her seemingly perfect life. But his search came up empty. No Facebook, no Instagram, no Twitter. It was as if she didn't exist outside the confines of the dating app. He tried different variations of her name, even reverse image searching her photos. Nothing. The more he searched, the more he found nothing but digitally erased footsteps. It was like trying to grasp at smoke, just a series of dead ends and deleted profiles. His unease morphed into full-blown suspicion. Who was this woman, and what was she hiding? The night before their scheduled date, Mark checked the dating app one last time, his stomach churning with a sense of dread. He clicked on her profile and his blood ran cold. It was gone, vanished into thin air. The witty bio, the captivating photos, everything, gone. Panic surged through him. He tried to convince himself that she'd simply deleted her account, that his instincts were wrong. But the next day, a news report flashed across his screen confirming his worst fears. There, plastered on a missing persons flyer, was the woman from the dating app. The same captivating smile, the same sparkling eyes, but beneath her picture a chilling caption, "Missing, feared, abducted." Mark's blood ran ice cold. He had been right. Something was terribly wrong, and he had narrowly escaped becoming another victim. Have you ever scrolled through a dating app and felt a chill run down your spine, like you'd seen that face, those eyes before? Our next story dives into the unsettling world of digital doppelgangers, where finding your perfect match might mean coming face to face with your darkest fears. We follow the story of a young single, let's call them Alex, who thought they were just looking for love in the digital age. Little did Alex know, their search for connection would lead them down a terrifying rabbit hole of stolen identity and chilling obsession. One lazy Sunday, while swiping through potential matches, a familiar face popped up on Alex's screen. It was a strange feeling, like seeing a ghost in a crowded room. This wasn't just someone who resembled them, it was like looking into a digital mirror. Same piercing eyes, same mischievous smirk, even the bio seemed eerily familiar. At first, Alex brushed it off as a bizarre coincidence. After all, everyone has a doppelganger out there, right? But something about this profile felt different, almost predatory, like a wolf in sheep's clothing. Curiosity piqued, Alex took a deep breath and swiped right, unaware of the nightmare that awaited on the other side. The match was instant, and a message popped up almost immediately. "Hey there," it read, "haven't we met before?" The casual tone sent a shiver down Alex's spine. This wasn't just a case of shared looks, this felt personal, calculated. As they delved deeper into the conversation, a creeping sense of dread settled over Alex. This mysterious match seemed to know everything about them, their favorite haunts, their childhood dreams, even embarrassing moments they'd shared with only a handful of close friends. It was as if someone had crawled into their mind and stolen their life story. "Remember that time we tripped and fell into the fountain at the park?" the match messaged, adding a laughing emoji that felt more menacing than playful. Alex felt a cold sweat prickling their skin. That was a secret shared only with their best friend, a memory they hadn't thought about in years. How could this stranger know this? Panic started to set in. This wasn't just a harmless coincidence anymore. Something was deeply, terrifyingly wrong. Alex tried to rationalize it, to convince themselves it was just a sick joke, but the more they interacted with this digital phantom, the more their blood ran cold. Driven by a mixture of fear and morbid curiosity, Alex decided to confront this unsettling enigma head-on. They challenged the match, demanding to know who they really were and how they had access to these intimate details of their life. The response sent a new wave of terror crashing over Alex. "Why don't you meet me at our usual spot tomorrow? Let's reminisce about old times," the message read, followed by an address, the very cafe where Alex spent countless afternoons reading. It was a chilling confirmation that this wasn't just some online stalker. This entity was deeply intertwined with their life, their routine. The next day, heart pounding in their chest, Alex found themselves standing across from the cafe, fear battling with an unsettling sense of morbid curiosity. As they hesitantly stepped inside, their eyes fell upon a figure seated by the window, bathed in the warm glow of the afternoon sun. Their breath hitched. It was like stepping into a nightmare. Sitting there, sipping on what looked like Alex's usual order, was their exact replica. Same clothes, same hairstyle, same unsettlingly familiar smile playing on their lips. Frozen in place, Alex could only watch as their doppelganger tilted their head, a knowing smirk spreading across their face. It was a silent acknowledgement, a confirmation of the chilling truth. This wasn't just a random look-alike. This entity had somehow stolen more than just their face. It felt like they were claiming ownership of Alex's entire existence. The doppelganger leaned back, their eyes boring into Alex's with an unnerving intensity. "Surprised?" they asked, their voice a chilling echo of Alex's own. Before Alex could utter a single word, the figure added, "Don't worry, you'll get used to disappearing." Shaking, Alex stumbled back, fleeing the cafe and the chilling encounter. The next few days were a blur of paranoia and sleepless nights. Every reflection felt like a threat. Every notification sent a jolt of fear through their veins. Then, one morning, Alex woke up to a notification from the dating app. Their blood ran cold. It was a message from their doppelganger, taunting them with their disappearance. Panicking, Alex rushed to open the app. Their own profile was gone, completely erased. But in its place, staring back at them with a triumphant smirk, was their digital twin, now the sole owner of their face, their life, their online identity. The nightmare wasn't over, it was just beginning. Have you ever felt that unsettling feeling where something seems too good to be true? Like a perfectly crafted dating profile promising a connection you've always craved? Our next story dives into that very feeling, a deceptive dance with danger disguised as desire. Imagine this, you're scrolling through a dating app, and you stumble upon a profile that makes your heart skip a beat. Their pictures are captivating, their bio witty and intriguing. They initiate a conversation, and before you know it, you're completely smitten. They're charming, attentive, and seem genuinely interested in you. They suggest meeting up, inviting you over to their place for a drink. They describe a cozy evening, filled with laughter and good conversation. Sounds tempting, right? But sometimes the most enticing invitations lead to the darkest of doors. This is the story of someone who learned that lesson the hard way. They were enticed by a charming personality and the promise of a connection. They agreed to meet at their match's house, eager to turn online chemistry into a real-life spark. As they arrived at the address, a shiver ran down their spine. The house stood cloaked in darkness, an unsettling silence emanating from its depths. It was a far cry from the warm, welcoming haven they had envisioned. The narrator stepped out of their car, the silence around the house amplifying their unease. The street was eerily deserted, not a soul in sight. The streetlights flickered, casting long dancing shadows that seemed to whisper warnings. Doubt gnawed at their gut. Should they leave? Was this really the charming individual they'd been chatting with online? Or had they unwittingly walked into a trap? Ignoring the prickling fear, the narrator decided to give their date the benefit of the doubt. Maybe they were just running late, caught up in preparing for their meeting. They walked towards the front door, each step echoing in the stillness. They raised their hand to knock, but before their knuckles could connect with the wood, a blood-curdling scream pierced the night. "What are you doing?" a voice shrieked. An elderly woman with frantic eyes stood in the middle of the road, her face a mask of terror. "Get away from that house! It's dangerous!" The narrator was taken aback, their heart pounding in their chest. "What do you mean?" they stammered, their voice barely a whisper. "Who are you here to see?" The woman's voice trembled, her gaze darting between the narrator and the menacing house. I'm here to meet someone," the narrator replied, their voice laced with confusion and growing fear. "I met them online. Their name is..." The color drained from the woman's face as they uttered the name. "That's impossible," she gasped, her voice barely audible. "That house, it's been empty for years, no one lives there." The narrator's blood ran ice cold. The woman's words echoed in their ears, each syllable a hammer blow to their sanity. Empty? Years? But they had just been chatting with their date moments ago. Had they been tricked? A wave of dizziness washed over them and they stumbled back. their eyes fixated on the house that now seemed to pulsate with an unseen evil. Panic seized the narrator. The woman's words, the eerie silence, the overwhelming sense of dread, it all pointed to a terrifying reality. They had been lured here, but by whom, and for what purpose? Trembling, they glanced back at the house, their hearts sinking as they noticed something they hadn't before. The front door, previously closed, was now slightly ajar, a sliver of darkness beckoning from within. It was as if the house itself was inviting them in, promising answers to questions they were terrified to ask. A cold breeze whispered past their ear, carrying with it the faintest of sounds, or was it their imagination? A soft, almost inaudible chuckle seemed to emanate from within the house, sending shivers down their spine. The narrator's instincts screamed at them to run, to put as much distance between themselves and this cursed place as possible. They tore their gaze from the open door and looked back at the old woman, her face etched with a mixture of fear and pity. They wanted to ask for help, to seek refuge in the safety of her presence, but the words seemed to lodge in their throat, choked by fear. Before the narrator could speak, a notification pinged on their phone, shattering the silence like a gunshot. It was a message from their date, the one who had lured them to this nightmare. Their blood ran cold as they read the message, their breath catching in their throat. "You should have come inside," it said, the words dripping with a chilling finality. The narrator didn't need to be told twice. They fled, their legs carrying them as fast as they could go, their mind a swirling vortex of fear and confusion. The old woman's warnings echoed in their ears, a chilling reminder of the danger they had so narrowly escaped. That night, the narrator barely slept a wink. Every creak of the floorboard, every rustle of leaves outside their window, sent their heart racing. They couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched, that unseen eyes were peering into their soul, relishing their terror. They had blocked their date on the app, desperate to erase any trace of them from their life. But the next day they received a message from a number they didn't recognize. "You can't block me forever," it read, sending a fresh wave of terror through their veins. The message was brief, but its implications were chillingly clear. They had stumbled into something sinister, something that extended beyond the digital realm and into their reality. The wrong swipe had led them to the wrong house, and now, the nightmare had followed them home. The narrator's story serves as Imagine this. You're scrolling through a dating app, faces flashing by, each swipe a gamble in the search for connection. You reject a profile only to find it reappearing again and again like a digital ghost haunting your every move. This isn't just a glitch in the system, but a terrifying glimpse into the next story. Our next story revolves around the sinister side of online dating, where rejection doesn't always mean goodbye, and persistence can quickly morph into obsession. We delve into the experience of someone who found themselves trapped in a digital nightmare, unable to escape the clutches of a match that refused to be ignored. It started innocently enough. The narrator, like many of us, was searching for companionship in the digital age. They swiped through countless profiles, some sparking interest, others eliciting an immediate left swipe. But there was one profile, one face in the digital crowd, that would soon weave its way into their life in the most unsettling way. This profile, seemingly ordinary at first glance, began to appear with alarming regularity. The narrator swiped left, dismissing it without a second thought. Yet there it was again, lurking in the next batch of potential matches, a digital stalker refusing to take the hint. It was an unsettling experience, a glitch in the matrix that sent a shiver down their spine. At first the narrator dismissed it as a mere bug in the app, a technical hiccup in the digital dating pool. They deleted the app, cleared their cache, hoping to erase the persistent profile from their digital footprint. But like a phantom limb, the profile returned, haunting their swiping sessions with renewed vigor. With every reappearance, the profile seemed to grow more insistent, the messages taking on an increasingly desperate tone. "We're meant to be together," the messages would read, each one sending a chill down their spine. The narrator was both baffled and alarmed. Who was this person, and why were they so fixated on them? Driven by a mix of curiosity and mounting unease, the narrator decided to investigate. They showed the profile to their friends, hoping for some semblance of recognition, a clue to unravel the mystery, but each friend shook their head, claiming they had never seen the profile before. It was as if this person existed solely within the confines of the narrator's digital world. a phantom admirer lurking in the shadows of cyberspace. The narrator tried to reason with the persistent match, explaining that they weren't interested, that their constant reappearance was unwanted and unsettling, but their pleas fell on deaf digital ears. The messages continued, each one a digital hammer blow, chipping away at their sense of security and sanity. Weeks turned into months, and the relentless pursuit continued unabated. The narrator felt trapped, their digital life held hostage by this relentless stranger. They considered abandoning the app altogether, but the thought of this digital stalker lurking in the shadows, potentially escalating their actions, filled them with a sense of dread. Then, one evening, the line between the digital and physical world blurred. The narrator arrived home to find a note slipped under their door, the handwriting unfamiliar, yet chillingly familiar. "You swiped right," it read, "now you're mine." Fear gripped the narrator's heart, constricting their breath. This wasn't just a harmless online annoyance anymore. This was a stalker, someone who had crossed the line, invading their physical space, their sanctuary. Panic surged through them, their mind racing to make sense of the situation. How did they find their address? Were they being watched? The questions pounded in their head, amplifying their fear. They had tried to ignore the digital harassment, hoping it would eventually fade away. But now, the nightmare had spilled over into their reality, leaving them feeling vulnerable and exposed. The note was a chilling reminder that in the digital age, the lines between our online and offline lives are often blurred. What starts as a harmless swipe can quickly spiral into something far more sinister. The narrator's story serves as a cautionary tale, a reminder that even in the vast expanse of the internet we are not always anonymous, and our actions, even the seemingly insignificant ones, can have real-world consequences. Sleep was a distant memory that night as the narrator wrestled with their fear. They checked their locks, peered out their windows, every creak and groan of their house sending shivers down their spine. The weight of unseen eyes pressed down upon them, a constant reminder that they were not alone. As a last resort, the narrator decided to confront their digital tormentor, to look into the digital eyes of the person who had turned their life upside down. They opened the dating app, their finger hovering over the profile picture, their heart pounding in their chest. And then, they saw it. The profile picture, once occupied by the face of a stranger, was now blank, a void staring back at them. No, not blank. As their eyes adjusted, they realized with horror that it wasn't empty at all. There, staring back at them, was their own reflection, twisted and distorted, as if reflected in a broken mirror. A blood-curdling scream escaped their lips as they dropped the phone, the device clattering to the floor like a dying spider. The screen shattered, the fragments of glass reflecting their own terror-stricken face. They had become the stalker, the obsession, the digital phantom haunting their own existence. The line between reality and nightmare had dissolved, leaving them stranded in a terrifying purgatory of their own making. Be careful who you swipe right on. What starts as a casual search for companionship can quickly spiral into a terrifying ordeal. A reminder that the digital world, for all its allure and promise, can also be a breeding ground for obsession, deceit, and terror. Be careful who you swipe right on, because sometimes they're already waiting for you.